Hearing none. We have any public comment? No public comment. Next item is approval of minutes. We are behind on those 3 sets of minutes. They are not ready for the commission, for the committee yet, but we'll have them ready in time for the next meeting. So we'll move on to new business. First item is a letter of support for the Coconino National Forest for a transportation alternatives grant application. And for this item, I will turn it over to Pat McGurvey from the Forest Service.
Thanks, Martin. My name is Pat McGurvey. I'm the recreation staff here in the Flagstaff District. And we've been working with Metro Plan on a proposal for urban trail across the base of Mount Eldon. I think Martin probably sent out a copy in the agenda of kind of the map. And this was all part of the Mount Eldon Dry Lake Hills Recreation Planning Project that we authorized in 2022. But about 5.5 miles of urban trail. If you guys are familiar with the new trail we built out of the back of Buffalo Park, it's about 48 inches wide, crushed aggregate. So it would start at Eldon Lookout Road and roll all the way out to El Paso on the east side near our ranger station, and then pick back up again right at the city boundary at Snowflake and run out to the Sandy Steep Trailhead, connecting towards Stoney Park. So we're looking for this ADOT grant to help us with design and then hopefully construction after that. So just here tonight to answer any questions. But we think McGrath went to Transportation Commission maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago and presented this, and then the order is a little mixed up. So we're coming back to the boards to kind of get your guys' thoughts on this or answer any questions and get support.
It's just mainly along pipeline in those sections.
Yeah. So from the 4th Street Church, the Trinity Methodist Church west, it would mostly be, there was that logging road that was constructed for Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project. So using that footprint for most of that.
And then I guess with crushed rock aggregate, it's crushed for how?
So I don't have the specs in front of me. So there's like a 4-inch base and then a 2-inch lift on that, which is like the crushed granite on top. So
Thinking like strollers.
Yeah. So pretty hard.
It is pretty hard. Cool.
Same mix as the foots.
Oh, sweet.
Is ideally what we would do. We've done some cheaper versions, but yeah, trying to get that compaction.
Yeah, this is Ron. I think I read through it, the letter and the map, and I think it's great. I can't think of too many times when I've been in there and not gotten lost on one of those multiple trails. So I think it's great to establish kind of a main trail. Just one question, there's a bunch of other kind of braided, are you gonna abandon those or just leave those in place, or how's that gonna work?
So we have about 10 miles of trail in that zone slated for adoption or reroutes to become system trails. And then we try to obliterate some of those that don't make sense, trying to keep people on the ones that do make sense. I don't think it's going to be perfect, but I think having this higher developed trail in there really helps kind of put those pieces together. If somebody's just trying to get through that zone, they can get through there. We've got clear trail junction signs, things like that.
Okay.
So this is kind of maybe the first step in that direction. And then we'd work on loops. There'd be like 3 tiers up the hill in some of those zones. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I completely support it. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Ron. So timeline wise for us is we're hoping to submit this by next Friday. So looking for a letter of support as soon as we can to include with that proposal. If that timeline doesn't work, we can include it later if needed, but. What else do you need, Martin?
I think that's it. Any other questions from members of the committee?
No questions from me.
Any questions comments from others present? So we have this as an action item. So if at the committee's discretion, if somebody would like to make a motion, we'll vote on it. I believe the motion would be, a motion for a letter of support for the Forest Service Transportation Alternatives Grant. And I
Okay.
also think, do you want to use the draft that was provided in the packet? Is someone willing to draft a different version of it?
Well, I read through it and it looked pretty good to me. The existing letter.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it has everything we need.
Okay, that's the key because you're the ones going for the grant. So yeah, I'd make a motion to support the proposal as it was included in the minutes
And I'll second.
or the agenda, excuse me.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries by a vote of 4-0.
Another question,
Sure.
even though it's past that, where does that bop out on Elton Lookout?
The Arizona Trail,
What's that?
the Arizona Trail where that gate is.
Yeah, okay, so it's higher than that neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's like behind that, around.
yeah, that's
them. Right?
where the helicopter landing pad was. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, because everything south of that is private property. Well, thank you for having me and thank you guys for what you do for our community.
You.
Get out of your way.
So I will, I'll get that draft letter formatted onto, city letterhead, et cetera, and, for Matt's signature, and then we'll give it to him and have it signed for you. Okay? Next item on the agenda is somewhat similar. It's a letter of support for the city of Flagstaff for a transportation alternatives grant. And for this one, Chris Fair is online, and I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, folks. Are you able to hear me all right?
We can hear you.
Great. I'm going to take the screen. One moment. How does this side by side look in the room? Is it tough to tell what either thing is, or does it work?
Make it a little bit bigger.
Here, well, maybe what we can do is I'll just start with the map, and then I can blow up the letter of support. So this project is the Fort Valley Road Mobility Enhancements Project. That's the title that we've settled on. There's several components to it, but the project area is from Navajo Road on the south towards Seacrest Elementary School on the north end, and then with a few enhanced crossings beyond Seacrest. So that's essentially what the map is going to be good for us, but I can blow this up now and we'll talk about some of the components of the project. So one of the key components is infill of missing curb, gutter, and sidewalk segments along Fort Valley Road on the east side. I'm sure you're familiar with the Foots Trail that exists along the west side of the road, but along the east side, there's sort of a social trail that's formed in a lot of places. So it's receiving some use, but there's no sound facilities in place. So this grant is to procure 60% scoping of these missing sidewalk segments. Also included are improvements to the driveway pans that sidewalk would interact with on the east side as Fort Valley goes from Navajo Road to Seacrest Elementary. Another important component is identification of necessary right-of-way acquisitions that would need to be made for sidewalk to be constructed on the east side of Fort Valley Road. Additionally, we'll explore where the travel lane can be widened in some places. And what this could help us do is allow for restriping that creates more appropriate bike or cyclist shoulders on either side of the street, because in some areas the cyclist shoulders are constrained. And finally, we will look to make improvements to crossings at Seacrest Elementary. I'm sure you've passed that one before. Creekside Drive, which is to the north of Seacrest, and then Blue Willow, which is beyond that. Like I said, this is for 60% scoping. And ultimately with this project, what happens if awarded is ADOT takes it over and manages the project. It's a 5.7% match. So that's what the city would be responsible for. Our cost estimating is pointing towards us, or towards the grant project costing $592,000 with a grant request of $558,000. That's about it. I'm happy to take any questions that you all might have.
What is this outside of the crossings that we already went over like 3 meetings ago? So those are happening and these are outside of that.
Yes, these would be in addition to those other
Okay.
crossings. Yeah,
It's just
yeah. So those other crossings are at Forest, Mead, and Anderson.
Perfect, sweet. That's the one I wanted to hit. And that was on the 1 to 5 for those? Priority, 1 to 5 year?
Yeah.
Cool.
We're working on those now, in fact, yeah.
What is that word you use for the 60%? I mean, the 60%.
Sure. That's a good question. And so ultimately through transportation alternatives, there's a few different types of grants that you can apply for. If you want to go for construction funding, you have to have 60% design plans in place for your project. We do not have those for this. So this is a good step towards being able to apply for construction funding in a future round.
Cool, thanks.
That's a good question, since I'm here.
Yes.
Is there any consideration for, I guess that would be on the left side, if you're headed out, so what is that? That's heading where there's the bike path kind of already on one side of Fort Valley. There's stretches where at night, the night blindness from the car headlights is like pretty bad, and I would consider dangerous when you're headed mostly out towards like Coconino Center for the Arts. I don't know if there's like a netting or like some kind of visibility dampener that can be put up at strategic height, just because I've been a dark sky city and you get that much light in your eyes headed out there. It's pretty tough for a cyclist. So just a consideration. I don't know if it falls within this grant, but as a user of that road in that capacity, I felt pretty vulnerable with not being able to see a lot of stuff headed out to Coconino Center for the Arts like pretty often. And I think even that stretch alone would just be helpful during pretty dark and limited visibility times of usage.
Does it hit you more when you're southbound, so you're closer to the oncoming
Yeah,
traffic?
because they're like
Yeah.
coming directly at you.
You do notice the difference.
It's just like, especially with how headlights are these days, you know, that like compared to old styles and now that LED, like kind of that painful glow, man, it'll mess you up. Thank you for letting me interject.
Any other questions or comments from the committee or anyone else? Chris, is that a draft letter?
Yes, this is a drafted letter. I'm happy to provide it to anybody who is willing to take this on the PAC. This went to BAC last week, and one person kind of decided that they would take it, and really they just added a short paragraph to it that specifically represented the interests of the BAC. Maybe we would request something similar from PAC.
You want to, can you blow that up just a little bit?
Yes.
And how about if the PAC, we take a moment to give the PAC a chance to read through? You want to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
When you say driveway pan, will there be crossing markings at every driveway pan?
So I would not say that there would be markings similar to what you would see on a crosswalk, but so the improvements to these driveway pans would largely be related to ADA compliance, where cross slopes aren't difficult to navigate, and there's adequate space behind. There's a few different designs that could be explored, but mostly it's related to ADA compliance.
Sure. I'm just thinking on like a cyclist end of things, if someone is cruising on that side, because they don't, like I often find myself in Flagstaff compared to other cities not wanting to use the bike lane. So then I pick whatever sidewalk I'm closer on. So not necessarily from a walking standpoint, from a biking standpoint, having signage, because some of those apartment buildings, in, out, where it might just be nice to have, hey, yield signs for the cyclists is just maybe a reminder, even though like you have to be on your feet at all times, that's a risk you take. And like a marked stop line, like, hey, don't just go 30 from your parking lot into this driveway and then wait at 180, because everyone's trying to get onto 180. And when you're in your car, you're just like, I need to be in charge of this and go as fast as possible. So maybe just a reminder of like a stop line or a yield pedestrian sign, maybe put that in the budget. Yield here when pedestrian is present or cyclist is present. At those, because those are some pretty busy buildings now, especially that new one. With how many people live in those along that stretch. Just a thought.
Yes, yeah, no, thank you for that, Jay. Yeah, especially with an increased, well, there would be an expectation of increased foot traffic by implementing a sidewalk through here. So stop bars, improved signage, absolutely considerations.
Yeah, And then you've got the restaurants there too, so it could be important, people whipping in and out of there. Just, I don't know, signage for anything that a pedestrian could point to if they did get hit, or a cyclist get hit, to point to, be like, you didn't yield here. And there's a marked sign to yield there. Just a thought.
Other questions, comments? Any thoughts on the letter?
This is Ron. I think the letter looks fine, although it doesn't, I can't see beyond the sincerely, but it doesn't mention pedestrian specifically unless I missed it. So maybe just a sentence to acknowledge that this will improve, the area for pedestrians.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other thoughts, comments, questions? With Ron's change, are you comfortable with using the letter otherwise as is?
Yeah, I certainly am.
Okay, so this is similar to the last one. We're looking for a motion in support of the grant application, and to authorize that the chair, a letter be written in support of the grant for the chair to sign.
Say, make the motion.
Yeah.
I make the motion.
Yeah, that works.
Great.
Okay, we have a motion from Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries 4-0. Okay, moving on. Third item under new business is an update on federal grants. And this was an item that was requested last week by the Bicycle Advisory Committee. So we put some information together, and basically they were wondering the status of federal grants. The city has applied for and received a handful of grants. And the new administration has different priorities compared to previous grant years, and there was just some interest and some curiosity about if the city's heard anything about our existing grants and what exactly the status is. So with that introduction, I will turn it over to Chris. Chris, are you prepared? Do you have your
Yeah, just
Grants.
one moment while I pull it up.
Thank you.
All right, are we seeing this simple table?
Yes.
Excellent. So we can talk about the details of some of these if there is interest, but really the gist here is just to let you all know what grants we have active and signed agreements are in place for, and which grants are pending and do not have a signed agreement. The first one is ADOT HSIP for the Fourth Cedar Lockett Roundabout. This project is underway. You may see construction going on if you travel through this area now. And please feel free to interject too if there's any, if you want any more detail on any of these. Secondly is the SS4A Butler Avenue complete street conversion. We've spent some time talking about this one in the past. Third is the Infra Downtown Mile project. This one includes a few crossings, specifically through the downtown region of the BNSF and Route 66. It's also the third rail BNSF railroad project. Additionally, we have the ADOT Transportation Alternatives Program, Safe Routes to School. This is a planning effort, largely a planning effort combined with Metro Plan and Mountain Line. Fifth, we have the Federal Transit Administration First Mile, Last Mile project. Jay, you brought these up in our related to our last item. There's several improvements being made along Fort Valley Road. Next, we have the SS4A Safe Streets Master Plan. This is our city transportation master planning project, $2.4 million awarded, going out to procurement later this spring. And lastly, in this category, we have the AZ Smart Butler Avenue complete street conversion, which was just the state award that covers the city's match commitment to the Butler Avenue complete street conversion project. For all of those, we have signed agreements in place, and our direction from grants and city grants and contracts is business as usual. Continue pushing forward with these projects. As far as grants that are pending approval and do not have a signed grant agreement in place, first we have the RAISE grant award for Butler Avenue and 4th Street safety improvements. That's a pretty hefty project, and the city was awarded, but there isn't a signed grant agreement in place as of yet. And secondly is the ADOT HSIP Highway 89 streetlights and retroreflective backplates. This project essentially identified areas or a section along Highway 89 that was streetlight deficient, and will design and construct streetlights where they're missing, as well as installing retroreflective backplates on traffic signals, which you may have seen before in other places around the city. It's essentially that reflective border that gets installed to increase conspicuity of the traffic signals. So that's that's our list. Are there any questions or any further detail that anybody would like to go into?
I'll just add a little bit of background, Chris. So all these are federal grants, and these were applied for and received during the time of the last administration. The new administration took office. There were a handful of executive orders directing the federal highways to review grants that did not have grant agreements and had not been obligated for kind of compliance with other executive orders and different priorities of the administration. So specifically, if a grant was built around equity, DEI, or was bike specific, it was supposed to be reviewed. So what Chris explained is that we have agreements in place for a handful of these grants. Some of them we've already expended money on, so they've been obligated. The word that we get from our representatives at FHWA is that some of the projects are being reviewed, but we don't expect anything to happen. The fact that we have grant agreements in place gives us a particular level of protection from anything that might come down. Also, you can look at the specific grant and determine if it kind of catches the administration's attention in terms of being not in compliance with their priorities. And I'll use the Highway 89 streetlights for an example. There's really nothing about that project that would get their attention and encourage them to cancel it. The other ones all have grant applications. So that's kind of the context of why we put this on the agenda, just to kind of talk about what we know and what our expectations are for some of those grants that we've been working on.
Well, thanks for that update. That's encouraging. I could conjure up worst case scenarios than what you just presented, so thank you.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Great. But also, where is there more information on number 6, the Safe Streets Master Plan, and how far along is that?
Thank you for that question. So as far as how far along is it, the grant agreement went or was signed and finalized in December of 2024. So we're not terribly far along. I'm a project manager for this particular project. We work with MetroPlan, who wrote and is administering the grant project. We meet regularly, generally twice a month or so, and we have been shaping the scope with a scoping team that is interagency. So there's representatives from the city, from Mountain Line, from the county, from MetroPlan, and it all began with a pretty elaborate stakeholder interview process. Myself and Dave Wessel of MetroPlan interviewed approximately 30 different stakeholder groups to help shape what what our transportation master plan needs to accomplish for the city. So ultimately, we're honing in on finalizing our scope and going to procurement sometime in the next month or two.
That meeting open to the public?
We have not had public meetings at no, we have not had any public participation opportunities yet. They will come about, and they will absolutely be circulated to the PAC, to BAC, and beyond that. We're just not quite at that stage yet.
So there will be public development meetings where public can come in, review what has been proposed, and add opinion on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the committee or others? Hearing none, Chris, thank you for that information. We will move on in the agenda. Item number 4 is Green Transportation Week at NAU, and I'm just going to quickly share the website. So this is I don't know much about this. I think Sam at BAC had a little bit more information about it. Is it something you know about, Dre?
Kind of.
Per chance?
Yeah, it's the NAU, what is it, their SUS fund, which I think is hilarious. NAU Sustainability and their like Green NAU Fund promoting all week alternative transportation. So they have like bus demos, and then they had info booths on the pedway yesterday, and I think today they were gonna do a bike ride tomorrow, and just several other things. So either representatives of NAU specific groups, but then some public facing groups as well, talking to students, asking them various ways that they could get around the campus and town without their own personal vehicle.
Okay, excellent. Always good to see NAU getting involved in these sorts of things and other groups kind of picking up and providing information, getting people interested in walking and biking. Questions, comments from the group?
Did anyone win the e-bike?
When was the raffle?
I think it's probably, I would think at the end of the day tomorrow. You need some tickets?
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be tomorrow at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. All right, get your tickets. Okay, moving on in the agenda, number 5 is Car Free First Friday. And for this item, I will turn it over to Ray.
I think I only have to pass these to Jay if he wants any flyers. So everybody else got some.
I already printed one out for work, but
Okay.
I'll put the color ones there.
Yeah, color and handbills. So you can, yeah, for sure. I need the rest of them for upcoming stuff. Was able to receive a grant through Ardex, and Creative Flagstaff. Teamed up with them for the closure of Aspen Street between LaRue and San Francisco Street, to activate that in a pedestrian forward, not only messaging, but also actual action of setting up booths, having Mountain Line with a bus there. The ArtX aspect of that will add the artistic flair of previously they had poetry on the bus, which was just written poetry that was on the kind of outward facing spots on the bus for advertising. And that was a previous ArtX project. This one, since they have the bus parked for Mountain Line to interact with the community, they're going to have actual poets delivering their poetry on the bus. So every about 15, 20 minutes, a different poet will be in the bus so that people can go interact with that said bus, see how it is, interact with the bike rack that they're offering, as well as we'll have music on the square, 2 really good bands, Good Luck, Bad Stuff, and Bad Delicious. And a more info booth than vendors for this event. So Flagstaff Biking Organization, Metro Plan, Flyers, High Country Adaptive, FBO, I think I already said that. So several other folks and some of the bike vendors downtown will also be representative there. A big push that will be developed for that day will be a survey. I'll have in-person hard copies, paper copies, but probably also printing out a QR code for people to be able to fill it out online. Anybody who has an opinion of what that did to that street and what that did to business on that street can feel free to put in their experience of it or their thoughts of it when we'll get those surveys back and share the results with everybody once that is completed. So tell everybody you can if you want to see what streets are looking like when they are person-centric and pedestrian-friendly, then this will be an event that will probably be pretty fun to be at. Thank you.
Tell me, sorry, I blanked on the survey. When?
I'm still waiting. It's like mostly in the works or mostly created, but Julie Sokol is a big part of getting that out. Just as far as the clearance, and they have Viola Awards on Saturday, so everybody's like maxed out. So I'm gonna probably have it done and ready hopefully early next week, and then ready for the actual day of. Regardless of day of, I'm hoping that once it's created, of course, we can just share the QR code to various sites as well as, email lists and all that kind of stuff. easy to pass along. But we just haven't gotten like the full official one yet, so I haven't officially made that like announcement on it just yet.
Ray, is the survey intended for people who are participating in the event or actually like on site or anybody from the community?
I'm gonna present it to every single person that wants to interact with the survey. Every person who's passing by, visitors, kids, shop owners, public officials, whoever wants to come and take a survey can take a survey.
What about people who are nowhere near Aspen Street on May 2nd?
I mean,
You want them participating, that's fair.
if the, you know, how many surveys do you get filled out with what you send out?
Couple hundred.
Yeah, and you know, how many people like are pushing one way or the other? You know, I mean, like,
Yeah.
surveys are hard to get. But if we get them just on, if we just centralize it to there, then we can easily say it's just a paper survey. So,
Okay. But I ask because we could set it out to like our mailing list if anybody could take the survey, for example. If you want to
I
hear,
don't see what I
if you want to hear from the broader public, but if,
yeah, I mean, I think everybody should have their capability to say what they believe that,
Want to keep rolling coal on the pedestrians downtown.
I mean, and rightly so if they want to, and that's the greater voice, then that's the greater voice, and I'll acquiesce.
may not be a specific,
With that,
there may not be a specific question about that.
yes or no?
It's getting out and the survey's still being drafted. That could be just an upfront question. Were you there on May 2nd
Right.
or not? So
Yeah,
feedback on the survey.
okay, that makes sense.
All right, thank you, Ray. Comments, questions from the group?
Just a quick comment. I got your flyer a day or two ago. I sent it to some friends. We're planning on going, so survey us. You'll get a couple of yeses.
Thank you much. We appreciate it. Tell everybody you can.
It's a great idea.
Thank you. I think we can all come together, enjoy it, and then say if we want it to happen again or we absolutely hated it and never ever want it to happen again.
It's a good excuse to get my girlfriend to ride her bike too. So
Yes.
take whatever I can get.
Yeah, man, May 2nd. We'll get it going for bike month.
Right, I had a question. You said at the beginning that you got a grant
Yes.
to support this. Can you, like, who did you get the grant from and what specific, expenses does it help support, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to, because I'll also share the grant that I didn't get, which was the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant, which I applied for at full asking amount, got rejected for the second year in a row. And then Ardex, I had to get their buy-in anyway, because they're the grandfathered permit holder for that night. So even if I was trying to do it independently of organizations, but just wanted to get the permit for the street closure, I would have had to gotten essentially permission from Creative Flagstaff. So with that, they were, between them and the Downtown Business Alliance, those were the two people that I had to talk to first to get approval that we could go ahead with that. I informed them that I was working on the neighborhood sustainability grant when that wasn't a possibility. Luckily, there was still ArtX funding, and they had kind of switched the parameters of how they were funding ArtX this year. So instead of 1 week or 1 weekend that they were pushing a bunch of different stuff, this is more kind of spread out and compartmentalized to like projects. And Julie was like, well, we have capability to approve a grant through that. So just copy paste your grant proposal into our capture, and then I'll be able to at least give you enough to, it was enough to close the street, which means pay the barrier people, what is it, $1,275, I think, something like that. And then the permit. So she was like, okay, the grant will take care of that. We'll stipend you 500 for doing all the work. And then we'll still try to do the kind of regular programming that they do for First Friday, which to me is mildly inadequate. They give performing artists $250 to perform, and they have to provide all their own sound and bring all their own gear. And I was like, well, I want a bigger band and I want a bigger, better sound system. So out of my own pocket, paid another $1,200. Want a videographer and capture of a lot of this. That's another like $900 that the grant would have covered. I could have gotten the grant to cover significant advertising. The grant would have paid for radio spots, for social media boosts, for mailers, if that was the case. Grant could have paid for that, didn't pay for that. What else could it have covered? Mostly, yeah, like the sound system and the bands, it would have been nice to pay them more because it is always nice to pay your performers well if you can. So, and I also had, a slight stipend in there for me to be able to, say it was worth putting in those many hours of work. But, didn't get the grant, so didn't get a stipend.
Thank you. And I think that may be instructive, if you do this again, or if other groups want to do it, just to have an idea of what costs there are and
Yeah.
what it is, so you can kind of
Yeah, and I can
plan for it.
For sure, I can break it down next time. It would be nice, if this gains traction, that next year we can go to BPAC and ask for an allotment for the whole season. Because if you ask for it up front and you get it, then nobody has to worry about it and nobody has to hustle for it. So if there's grant funding, if there's presentations that need to happen in order for folks to get behind this, well, then we'll have the data to be able to do that with, which I think is something that often lacks in some of these discussions because it's anecdotal, right? A lot of people come in with, well, when we closed the streets, this happened to me. When the city closed the streets, it affected our business. When, Tim Walz came and shut down the streets, that means it was money out of my pocket instead of what do the people say about this closed street? Because I can tell my story all day, but if people come in and actually fill out a survey about what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, whether they're a local or whether they're a visitor, it's important to know how they perceive what that street is and if it's better for it to be 16 parking spaces or for it to be an actual community meeting space for the enjoyment of all. So that's the ins and outs of that project.
How was the discussion when you went to DBA?
Hunter is very receptive.
Yeah.
Hunter is actually really hip on walkable cities and strategic street closures. I think right now, most cities and places the comparable size to Flagstaff are probably having similar problems where people want to be there. There's not enough parking, but there's not enough investment to build a parking garage. We'll say that because that's usually the Band-Aid thing that people want to do. But we just need strategic parking because the things that are activated outside of restricted parking spaces, if we use them equally, we would have a lot easier time with just the parking spot, not necessarily the multimodality, but you have 90 parking spaces out in the city hall parking lot that are free from 5 o'clock on, that never get filled from 5 o'clock on, and are open all weekend except for the markets, of course. I'm a big proponent of the markets. That's restrictive because they're going to use them.
But even if you close downtown, the market might move downtown, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's.
So you have 90 parking spaces, then you have another 70 at the county building. Then you have another 50 at the county parking space on LaRue and Cherry. So between all your places that are deactivated, right, not using their parking spaces from 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then from Friday to Sunday, nobody's using them because it's not worked hours. You have almost 200 spaces that don't get used for the vast majority of the time they're in downtown. If you can convince and message and get people in the habit of strategically parking and just getting used to a little bit of walk to get to places that are valuable, which that stretch, arguably the stretch of Aspen that is going to be closed, and from San Francisco, from Aspen to Route 66, that L shape has been, at least in the last 25 years, the most long-standing, no vacancy stretch of streets and businesses in Flagstaff in the year in 2000 on. If you think about all those storefronts, which is only like 16, 18, they're rarely empty or vacant. It's because people want to walk there, because people walk by there. It's not because they're drive-through services. And the argument that 16 parking spaces and 14 parking spaces account for the amount of foot traffic that keep those businesses successful is just silly, that those two stretches of street have to be open 24 hours a day to car traffic, when at proven points of time, particularly First Friday Art Walk, it is a pedestrian forward zone, and so it should be protected as such. And yet we leave that stretch of street open because what if 16 cars have to park? What if? What if they have to drive in circles and turn over 4? And strategically, if you just close that down, when there's more pedestrians, it's a win-win for everybody if you can convince people to park 2 blocks away, which I think we can do.
It's just like anything in that section, if it's shut down, it'd become habit for any of us. Just know it's not there. And at the same time, people staying at a hotel or whatever, like Google adapts within a day for construction. It's just like, they're using Google anyway. How do I get to Sosoba? It's like, oh, here's the parking lots that Google's mapped. I drive around this. They do it in every city.
Yeah.
Happens in every city.
Yeah.
It's closed.
So thank you for letting me chime and diarrhea for a little bit.
Appreciate it, Dre. You could do, I think that'd be an interesting, either a study or to collect existing information to compare the difficulty with parking at events with people's perception of how fun or worthwhile that event is, to see if there's like a proportional relationship. Like the harder it is to park, the more fun this must be.
I think we, in regards to parking, we discount the intelligence and the adaptability of humans for the last 100,000 years. It's like people didn't have cars up until 100 years ago, and people figured out how to build cities and build monuments and interact with each other. And we put in one car and it's like, oh, we can't figure out how to do this. Oh man, this is so crazy.
Fair point. All right, we're gonna move on to old business. The only item here is the update on the pedestrian and bicycle crash data report. I don't have anything to add, so if we could skip over that one and hold it for a future meeting. And that brings us to concluding general business reports. I can go through, A is Ride Your Bike Week. We went through the activities in a little bit more detail at BAC, but I think if you go to Flag Biking Organization's website, you can see what the activities are. And does anybody know offhand which week is Ride Your Bike Week?
It's the 12th. Starts the 12th. Yeah, I think it's the 12th through the 16th.
Okay. Micro mobility share. Chris, do you want to provide an update?
Sure. So related to micromobility share, the PAC will likely remember the presentation that they got a couple, I don't know, maybe that was at our last meeting. Feels like it was longer ago. But so that's in a phase of going out to different committees and commissions for gathering information and input, ultimately to reconcile a recommendation for council. That phase of going to committees and commissions should be wrapping up shortly. I believe that part of the group is at Sustainability Commission tonight and went to tourism earlier today. So still ongoing, but should be wrapping up soon. And we are looking to schedule a time where interested vendors can talk to our group, and we can ask them some of the tough questions that we've been hearing and how they respond. More to come on that, but that's about it for now.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna go through the report selectively, if that's okay, but if you have questions about something particular, please let me know. I'm gonna skip to asphalt foots. So the city's capital PM is working hard to get that going this summer. I anticipate we're going to council in a couple of weeks to get a contract approved, and then the actual work will begin after that. This should only take one season. I believe we're starting with the trails that impact schools or provide access to schools to make sure they get done before the next school year starts. And just as a reminder, we're replacing or repairing about 8 miles of asphalt foots, which is most of the ones that the city manages around town. First mile, last mile, the project manager is working to begin the first phase of the project, which will be installation of sidewalks on Huntington in the industrial area. The part of Huntington that serves both the food bank and flag shelter services. Elks Lodge Trail, we made a presentation to a joint city-county meeting last week, just to kind of give them an update on the status of that project. They had a few questions, but were generally supportive. Flagstaff Regional Plan is finishing the final draft. There is a retreat with council to go through a number of issues scheduled a week from tomorrow, which is May 2nd. If there's anything to share regarding that, I'll make sure to get it out to you. It is open to the public.
The retreat?
Yeah. Is that right?
Scott, I don't know.
The spa?
I hope so.
When is this? Oh, yeah, the city has a budget for that. When was that again, Martin? I'm sorry.
May 2nd, which is a week from tomorrow.
I'll be a little busy.
And we'll skip down to our 3 grant projects, and I'll ask either Chris or Carlton if they have any updates for those projects.
I can start us off, brief updates on our 2 Safe Streets for All grants. First, Butler Avenue complete street conversion. Project is moving along in the last throes of going to procurement for environmental considerations, and once that is complete, moving into design. That's about it. We've been kind of there for about a month or so, but I believe that should be moving along shortly. And then related to the Safe Streets Master Plan, we touched on it a bit earlier in this meeting. We have scoping team meetings planned for tomorrow, and then we meet every other Friday to continue hammering out our scope, looking to open procurement sometime in late spring. that's pretty much all I got. So I could pass it to Carlton for the next item.
Yeah, the safe routes to school one, we've had a couple bi-weekly meetings, so it's just getting going. The main thing we're doing right now is subbing out traffic counts. They should have a variety of videos and tubes out at the spots we're looking and try and get all that data collected before the school gets out, the various schools gets out. And then we can look at patterns and try to see how we address them.
Thank you, guys. Any questions, comments, thoughts on any of the reports, including the ones we didn't go over? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll close that item. Concluding announcements, our next meeting is scheduled for May 22nd, Thursday night. And with that, I believe we have come to the end of our agenda. Any other concluding announcements or closing thoughts? Hearing none, unless there are any objections, I will adjourn the meeting at 5:40 p.m.
Great. Thanks, Martin. You did a fantastic job.
Thanks, Ron.
Nice job.
Thanks, Martin.
Nice job, Martin. Good job.
Enjoy your evenings.
Likewise.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.